happy day to you. I am Jen Yates. You're locked on to Jyneration Nation, LRS102.com, Louisville's rock stream. And I'm always pumped, especially today, because I have Jimmy Brown up in the LRS studios. How you doing, Mr. Brown?
Oh, I'm doing well, Jen. So glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Man, thank you for coming in. I wanted to get you in because of all your talents and everything you've done around the city. And you have sure tons of stories about all kinds of cool things concerning music, but also because we're about to play a gig together for the first time.
You bet, man. I'm so juiced about being able to do this gig.
Yeah, me too.
For those out there in Radio Land, I'm going to get to play the bass with one of my favorite drummers, Jen Yates.
And I'm going to get to play the drums with one of my favorite bass players, Jimmy Brown.
Are we going to rock?
We're going to totally rock it out. And I saw our set list where I talked about our set list this morning with LaVon, and it's all kinds of really cool stuff, from Tina Turner to Beyonce to that new chick Lizzo even.
Oh, I got to tell you, Lizzo.
Yeah, what do you think about her?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, I'm somewhere, and somebody says, you got to check out this tiny desk deal.
Yeah.
And so I pulled it up on their phone, and it's the lady, Lizzo, I guess.
Lizzo, man.
And so last night, I'm downstairs on the couch, I'm watching TV, and my wife calls me. She's upstairs in the bedroom.
I love that. You don't go down the stairs, you just call.
She just called me. Says, you got to come up here.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I get off the couch, go upstairs. She goes, there's this girl I've heard about. You got to watch
She's
this.
on TV, yeah.
And so she pulls up.
Was it the Tiny Desk one?
My wife, Mary Jane, pulls up the Tiny Desk video. And I was like, oh, yeah, I saw that a few weeks ago. And Mary Jane was like, God, I'm so behind everything. But, oh, how cool is that?
Dude, well, I don't know if you know this, because in a lot of the videos, she doesn't do it, but she has a shtick, is what I call it, and she's a master flute player. So she'll be doing her dancing stuff, and then all of a sudden they'll bring her a flute, and then it's crazy flute solos.
She played the flute twice in the video. Cool. And, did a really nice, midsection flute solo. Yeah. And then kind of did an outro.
Right.
It was, and it was really neat because I noticed in this song they did, the keyboard player is playing this very simple melody passage, which really hooks the song.
Oh, yeah.
And I realized when she played the flute, she was doing that line. And I thought, man, it made me think music can be really simple.
Oh, yeah. I talk about that a lot. In fact, we'll talk about it today. Yes, keep it simple. That's right. You'll get more gigs doing that. I tell my kids that all the time. Yeah, when it comes to writing music, I had this discussion with other musicians on the show. I feel like, because I've worked with a lot of very trained musicians who are in orchestras and doing theater and can read really well and very schooled, and then I've worked with the other side of it, people who are very creative, who have never had a lesson in their life, that just do it because they love it. It seems like pop music, popular music, yes, and we're definitely going to be talking about that band, Vodeko, in a minute. But it seems like the super trained ones, their brains are so complex with music that they have a hard time just writing a simple, 4-chord pop song, because that is so simplistic. But what we love and what's catchy to most Americans is that simplicity that makes songs. Yeah.
There's something about us, I think, the older I get, the more it seems to apply at some level. We're still prehistoric, I think. And it's like, what is at the base of us?
Right.
And of course, music is a huge part of that, and simple music just never gets old, I don't think.
No, I agree. Yeah.
So I'll share one quick thing about highly accomplished people.
Yeah, what is it?
I'm going to tell on myself.
Okay, do it.
So I was going to do a gig a couple of years ago. My buddy Pat Lentz asked me if I would participate in a tribute to Bob Dylan and, oh, God, my brain. Come on. The Canadian songwriter.
The guy or girl?
No, guy who died. Leonard Cohen.
Okay, yeah,
tribute to Leonard Cohen and Bob Dylan, and various people going to come and play. I was excited to do it. I was, felt honored to participate.
Yeah.
And so we were a backing band for singers. A lot of good people in town.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of the keyboard players for a couple of the tunes was Teddy Abrams.
Oh, wow.
Who
leads our Louisville orchestra.
It's our orchestra.
Yeah.
And I'd had to pleasure of meeting him once before somewhere and chatted with him for a minute. And at that time, I talked up the Louisville Leopards.
Yeah,
he
of course.
He was new to
Dying
town.
Downs.
And I was like, you got to see this bunch. But I did this gig, and we had one quick rehearsal, and he could hear something not right. Because you were talking about people that are advanced and, you know, so complex.
Yeah, with their brains.
You know, and we quick rehearsal, and he could hear, like, what's not right. And, of course, what was not right was, oh, yeah, the bass is not right.
I love that.
Oh, man, I was so humiliated and humbled. But it was true.
Yeah,
I had to fix a part. And he could hear everything.
I've had a conductor in on the show before, and they just blow my mind, conductors, you know, because they do have to decipher. Musical directors the same way. They do have to decipher every single piece and part, you know, and it's just amazing to me, somebody who can actually do that very well.
Sometimes it makes me wonder, you know, people are kind a lot of times. You've been on a bandstand many times. You know what it's like to have somebody come up to you and say, oh, that was great, Jen, you did so good. And people say, oh, Jimmy, man, you really rocked it. You were so good. And I'm in the back of my mind, I'm thinking two things. So that's really nice.
Yeah.
And also, oh, they really weren't listening to me.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. It's so funny how that works. So, yeah, Jimmy, we're going to get to play Louisville Pride. We're going to get to play the middle of Bardstown Road, which is super cool, right? Yeah. And not only that, but we're going to be joined by Jessica Bullock on keyboards, who is a new and up-and-coming female theater-trained musician, also a music teacher, and Donna Bivens, who you know, right?
I went to Doss High with Donna Bivens.
All right. I love that.
I know her from her maiden name.
Yeah.
You know, and her sister too. I knew her older sister a little better than Donna, but I've known Donna. Wow.
Yeah.
We're showing our age.
Right. Well, I just got to play with them at the She Castle event we threw on, and it was really cool. It was a good group of girls, you know, together, like a lot of good chemistry, a lot of good vibes going on, and great players, you know.
And Donna's accomplished.
Yeah, very. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Donna's great. And also, the coolest thing about this is when Pride came to me and offered me the gig, they said, you know, can you get us a little culture up in here? Because we want to make it very diverse. And so I said, I'll see what I can do. Well, I just met LaVon Fisher Wilson, who is based here in Louisville, but she's a Broadway superstar. Don't let her fool you, because she's way down to earth, but she, is very accomplished on Broadway in New York City. In fact, she was in the Color Purple with the headliner of this year's Louisville Pride. So she was like, oh, yeah, I called him up and was like, hey, Todrick, we're going to be sharing the stage in Louisville together. They were in the Color Purple together. She was Mama Thornton in Chicago on Broadway.
Wow.
Yeah, she's been in a ton of cool things. So she runs the Queens of Funk and Soul here, and that's what we're going to back up.
Oh, Jen, you're getting me excited.
Right?
You're getting me nervous.
I know. Well, I might be a little nervous myself.
Wow.
But, 45 minutes, we can get through that, surely. On a big old stage, and, Robbie Bartlett will be there. And
I know Robbie.
The list is really cool. Yeah.
And with music, and this applies, I play sports a lot, too, and it applies to sports, it applies to music. You want to get better, play with people that are better than you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So. And I thought it'd be really cool to play with a Broadway singer.
I'm totally juiced for this one.
Yeah, me too.
I'll be nervous. I will put time into learning the songs.
Yeah, me too. And we'll get some practices, because I'm the same way. I like to know my stuff when I'm playing, make sure I got all those tempos right, and
Right.
You don't want to mess up a gig in the middle of Bardstown Road in front of thousands of people.
Drummers, they worry about tempo.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Always, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And stops and starts, right?
Yes, exactly. Stop, starts. That's what I tell my kids. Worry about your beginning, how you end it, starts, stops, and then you get your tempo right and your main groove, and you should be fine.
and for bass players, it's like, what's the next chord?
Right. I hear you.
Because you're either right or wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been wrong many times.
Oh, me? Well, yeah. I've done the same. Sometimes you just, you just do what you do.
you just gotta keep you got to keep going.
Yeah. So, Jimmy, let's educate our listeners out there. Thank you for tuning in to LRS 102 on how far do you go back with music? How did you get your start in music?
Okay, I like to say that the reason I got into music was I was the last person cut from the basketball tryouts in the 9th grade.
Right on.
And so, my older brother dabbled in music a little bit. He played sax in a high school band. He got a little Farfisa, Oregon. And,
cool. I own a Farfisa.
Oh, do you?
A 62, compact deluxe.
Oh, I was one above. We just had a mini compact.
Yeah, but go ahead, because I love a Farfisa.
So we, somehow we got this thing, and I had gotten a guitar in 5th grade. Is that right? Yeah, 5th grade. So I took a few guitar lessons, and that's a whole nother story. I have a whole philosophy about giving guitar lessons, or my experience with taking lessons as a kid.
Yeah.
So I got into it by 5th grade, 11 years old or whatever, and I took a few lessons and quit. I was discouraged from it and got away from it. And then I got back into it, and my brother got the Farfisa, and I decided this time around, though, something about playing the bass notes on that organ, I got into wanting to play the bass. So I got a bass guitar for Christmas, 8th grade maybe.
Yeah.
My folks had gone to Sears. I wanted to get a Hofner lookalike, the Paul McCartney violin bass.
Yeah, oh yeah. Did Paul play? He played lefty, didn't he?
He played left-handed. Yeah. But, he had a violin-shaped bass made by Hofner. And so, of course, they were expensive, and I wanted to get a copy of one. My folks went to Sears and bought a copy of it, $99, and I looked under the bed and found it at Christmas, and at the time there was a place in town called Tiller Piano in Oregon. They were a Vox dealership also. It was kind of a hipster music store at the time. And so I found this Vox down there. It was marked down because it had cracks in the finish for $99. So I had to run the risk of getting in trouble for spilling the beans about finding my Christmas presents in advance.
You're right.
But I felt it was worth the risk.
Yeah,
because I said, Mom, you got to take this Christmas present back to Sears and get the money back. We got to go to Tiller's and get this Vox bass instead.
Yeah.
She understood.
And she did it?
Oh, yeah.
Super cool mom.
My mother was my champion.
Yeah.
For anybody out there that's listening that knows anything about me at all, I'm here to tell you, my mother was it. She championed all of my causes.
Yeah. I have to give it up for my own mom, who may be listening right now. If you are, shout out, Mom. She's traveled as many gigs as she can to see me play, and if she's available and free, she'll show up. I mean, she even showed up in the Keys one time.
Oh my Lord.
When I did Florida in theater, she showed up to see that show, and tried to make it out to LA when I was out there, but all over, anytime I play that she can come, she always tries to come.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
No, but
so she's my biggest champion too.
Mothers, man, mothers are special. What
yes,
can you
they
say?
are. Yes, they are. Yeah, and you only get one usually. Yeah,
that's it. You get one. I had one. She was fab, and so I joined a high school garage band.
Yeah,
and I did that and messed around. And I got involved with working on old guitars, and that's a whole nother story.
Yeah. So you started playing around what, age 10 then?
Yeah, 11 years old. I got my first. Yeah.
Yeah, and you started a garage band.
Well, I was asked to join a garage band.
Okay, so join one, yeah.
Yeah, with my best friend to this day.
Who is?
Daniel Boone.
Oh, I love that name, by the way.
in homeroom, we had James Brown, Daniel Boone, and Richard Burton.
I love that. That's amazing. Yeah.
Of course, back then we were Ricky, Danny, and Jimmy.
Yeah.
But anyway, and I still occasionally do gigs with Danny Boone to this day.
Very cool.
And so it's really, it's really rewarding to have that part of my life. And I did that, and then, I showed, for you out there in listening world, you can't really see this.
Yeah.
But I showed Jen a picture of a buddy of mine, Dennis Ledford, who was in a very hip late 60s, early 70s group called Elysian Field.
Right, with Marvin Maxwell.
With Marvin Maxwell, Mark Maselli, and Dennis asked me to sub on basically a country club gig right out of high school.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I'm playing music the rest of my life.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think you ever stopped, did you?
I never
Yeah, because
stopped.
you're still playing.
And I thought about this while coming down here. I guess since a year or two after high school, I have pretty much played in two bands at the same time all my life.
Yeah.
But I don't plan on doing that. It's just something that for 40 some odd years has existed.
Yeah.
And
That's wild.
It's a juggling act, though.
Yeah, oh, I know. Yes, I've always done multiple projects. If I'm not busy, then I get bored. I feel like, I just take whatever comes. I don't take everything, but I take most everything that's cool or that I think might, advance me in some way musically or advance me into playing with other people or something like that. So.
If you don't put it out there, you'll never find out, and some things don't work out.
True, yeah.
But I gotta try.
I've had a lot of those too. Yeah.
Yep.
Some things just don't work out sometimes, and it's okay.
Hopefully, I'll learn. Hopefully, I've learned is I can learn something from all the experiences.
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely.
And secondly, I hope my goal. It's a high bar that I can bring something every time.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Bring positive energy to what's going on.
In fact, that's why I wanted to play with you for the Pride gig. Because every time I see you play, you're so happy when you play. And I feel like I am too. Like, I try to smile and, give that energy off. So I was like, ooh, it'd be fun to do that with Jimmy Brown, who does it just like I do too, and vice versa.
For those of you in Radioland, September 21st.
That's right.
Bardstown Road.
Saturday, September 21st. I think we're on from 4 to 5.
4 to 5. Yeah. This is my plug for the day. Yeah. But, we're gonna be down there playing, and we're gonna rock. We're gonna get down.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna get down. We're gonna make you dance for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Come out. Do you remember, Jimmy, how we met? Because I don't remember exactly how we met. Was it the girlfriend audition?
Girlfriend audition, okay. Nancy Harris.
Nancy Harris, man. It always goes back to Nancy Harris for me.
Nancy Harris. I think, I got the call from Nancy Harris.
Yeah.
And by way probably of Jeff McAllister. Mm-hmm. We love you, Jeff.
We love Jeff. He was up in here the first or second week that I had the show.
Why does that not surprise me?
I've had drummers up in the show at least twice a week, it seems like. Max Maxwell was just here. We had Jeff Jarbo on.
Oh, man.
I've even had some awesome female drummers on the other side of the country. Alice DeBurr of Fanny from the 70s.
Oh, my Lord.
Was on here. She's a big fan of mine, and we're in a book together, and she called and gave me the coolest interview ever. I mean, she was talking about smoking hash with Mick Jagger and touring with Keith Moon. She recorded on Ringo's drums in the Apple Studios. So, she's done some cool things.
Oh, my Lord.
Also, the drummer, Don Richardson of Four Non Blondes, who's on the big What's Going On hit that, Linda Perry wrote. And she's now in a band with Jane Weedland of the Go-Go's.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, I've had some awesome, amazing drummers up in here from all across the country.
And so it makes me think of something. One of the things about playing music, and I'm sure this can apply to other areas, but when you play music, all of a sudden, gender, race, financial status, left wing, right wing, it can all go out the window.
It sure does, yeah.
You are just another person creating music with your sidekicks.
Right.
And it's so wonderful.
Yeah, and magical.
To know, what that really is about.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Yeah. It's kind of crazy how music is. It's definitely the universal language, I've even had a kid who was mute before, who couldn't speak. And they asked me, Marvin was the king of this. He would always say, hey, I've got this kid, either they have autism or they've got something, that's some diagnosis, and we're going to throw them at you and let you try them out. So this one was a complete new challenge for me. I'd taught every kind of kid I thought that I could, but this one, she was mute and she couldn't speak, but we communicated through music. It was pretty amazing to watch. She was maybe 9 or 10 years old, never spoke a word to me, but took lessons for like a year.
Oh, it makes me think of Helen Keller.
Very much so. She could see and stuff, but as far as she would nod her head, I'd be like, do you understand? She would nod her head and stuff like that. But what an interesting thing. If that didn't show me that music is a universal language, I don't know what did,
Well, so she was deaf. So, and she played drum?
No, not deaf. She couldn't speak.
She couldn't speak.
Yeah,
oh,
she was mute.
She could hear.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, she could hear all those drum beats or whatever. Okay.
She could hear it. She just couldn't speak to me.
Couldn't speak it. Wow.
But she would nod her head like yes or no, or move her head and no for questions that I ask and stuff like that. But she actually ended up becoming a really great drummer and still playing today.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Isn't that wild?
It is so cool to step out there. A friend of mine used to always tell me, since passed on, but he would say, now, Jimmy Brown, he would say something to the effect of, you've got to, you got to step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And this guy would push me. And at the time, I didn't like it. I bristled, but I look back and see he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah. In what ways would you mean musically make you step out of your comfort zone or just on a general?
Just as a human being. And one of his ways to do it, we would meet once a week or so. And he would always, not always, but a lot of times he would pick a time that he kind of knew was inconvenient for me. Okay. Like I'm not an early bird.
Yeah, me either.
Well, this man was. And so it would be something like, okay, I'll see you for an hour. See you at 7 tomorrow.
Yeah.
7 in the morning. And I would just, oh.
Mm-hmm.
But
I understand. Well, I always say it is good to step outside of your comfort zone. That's when you're learning. If you're comfortable, you're not learning anything.
Yeah, right.
If you're out of your comfort zone, that's when you are growing. That's when you're learning. And I found that, through so many different experiences in life. From, I went down to Texas 2 years ago and was down on the border of Juarez in El Paso for a while. I was surrounded by people of a different culture, completely outside of my zone. It's only then when I feel like you learn, you know what I mean?
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
But I've been put in many experiences like similar to that, where you're in a different place. I might be around people who don't speak my language, but you've got to find a way to like relate, or whatnot. But definitely, made me learn a lot of lessons, taught me a lot of cool things about life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which you can always bring back to, we're here talking primarily about music, and you can always bring it back to that. You can bring it to anything. And so you talk about this experience, particularly in Juarez. And what it makes me think of then is, okay, where is my faith lie?
Yeah.
How okay am I about stepping into some arena that I'm going to have some fear with? I'm going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So where does my spirituality lie at that point?
Right. I've always felt like I had, I like to, not that I like to be in fear of my life or anything like that, but at the same time, when it comes to stepping up to a challenge like that scares me, I'm always, 100% going for it. You know what I mean? It's almost like a rush that I want to like prove to myself that I can do that. I don't have to be scared, especially concerning gigs too,
That's where it primarily exists for me. Because that's what I have the most experience with.
Right.
It did happen once. I play volleyball. I've done this for 35 years.
Yeah.
And I got invited to play with a bunch of people that were way better than me.
Yeah.
I got there and realized I'm totally out of my league.
Right.
All I'm going to do is bring their game down.
Yeah.
And so about 30 minutes into this, I came up with some excuse why I was all of a sudden called back to work and had to leave. Oh.
Yeah, I hear you.
Just...
So, Jimmy, I also want to talk about, you've got, I know you've always had multiple projects. I remember you from the Bodeco days.
Sure.
When you played in Bodeco.
Yeah.
And I've seen you play in a lot of different styles of things just around town,
Yeah.
And I've never gotten to play with you, but I have gotten to play an audition with you.
That's right. I love it. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, me either. And I tell you what, that was a magical gig for me because that moment went on to lead me to L.A. and all kinds of cool things. And you got to play with Julie Wolfe on that.
Sure, that's right.
Julie Wolfe is a game changer in my music career, I feel like.
No, I could tell. I met her I could tell right from the get-go, okay, this lady here, she's a professional.
Oh, yeah.
This lady knows what's going on here, and so I need to be professional.
Yeah.
I need to do the best that I can do. And I love that experience. So what was happening, there was a core band that were going to be the backup band for people auditioning for music spots.
Right.
Drums,
for Actors
bass,
Theater, yeah.
Keyboards, for Actors Theater. So when the bass player was going to audition, I sat down. When the drummer was going to audition, Jeff McAllister sat down.
Right.
Guitar or keyboards, either one, I guess, that would have been Scott Anthony would have sat down.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And I remember this audition. It was obvious who was going to get the guitar spot.
Yeah.
As I was playing along.
Yeah.
And played with each guitar player.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
When it was time for the drummers to
Yeah.
play,
Yeah.
I could tell, I know who's got the drum spot.
Yeah.
But when I sat out in the seats while the bass players auditioned, I had no idea who was going to get the spot.
Well, and I don't think anybody who auditioned did get that spot.
It
You know
was-
who did get it?
No, I don't.
Sarah Lee of the B-52s, the
Oh,
bass
my
player,
God.
who is a close friend of Julie Wolf's.
Oh, well, see,
Yeah.
I'm not surprised
Yeah.
because there was a different
Yeah.
level of,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
talent. And, oh, my God.
Yeah, and female bass players are few and far between. I mean, there's several around town, but there's not a lot.
Not a lot.
There's a
And
lot of female drummers around town, though.
Do you think, given my physique,
Yeah.
could I have pulled it off?
Oh, yeah.
Wig.
Oh, yeah, with the wig and the whole nine, yeah.
Skirt.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Sarah Lee, by the way? That was a great experience in my life. I love that woman, the bass player that ended
I'm
up
thinking,
getting the gig for Girlfriend.
I never saw him perform live.
Well, listen to her. So, when I got that gig, I didn't know who these people were. I didn't know who Julie Wolf was. Sorry, Julie, if you're listening, but I didn't at the time. So it wasn't until maybe the first or second week of rehearsals that I actually went home and Googled them because I heard them talking about like touring with the B-52s and things like that. And I thought, who are these people I'm working with? So I went back and I Googled them. And then I was terrified to come to practice the next day after I did. Sarah Lee got her start with Gang of Four overseas. She's from Europe.
Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't know any of that.
Yeah, and then she went on to tour with the Thompson twins. Told me amazing stories about them running tape machines that had backing vocals on them underneath the stages
wow.
back before computers were could really do anything, And she was saying even if they were like 1 beat per minute off, that those tracks would come in the wrong spot. So they had to be perfectly timed up. But yeah, she come over here and then got the gig with the B-52s.
Right.
She's on Love Shack.
Yeah,
That's her on
yeah.
Cosmic Thing on all of the bass parts. Went on to tour with Ani DeFranco, the Indigo Girls. Last time I talked to her, she was on tour with Robert Fripp.
Oh, my
I mean,
Lord.
she literally has done everything. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and meanwhile, one of my favorite moments was she had great stories. And by the way, when The Who was in town, she's like, let me call them up and go over there and see them. Like, she knew him personally,
Oh,
of
wow.
course,
Nice.
So she was very connected in the music industry.
My.
She would be sitting there and she would call her best friend, who was Gail Ann Dorsey, on the phone, who was the female bass player to David Bowie most all of his career. So I was just like, and they were here in Louisville for several months doing the show. So I got to show them all around Louisville, take them to the Highlands, take them out to eat. It was like I was their personal, chauffeur around Louisville.
Or as my wife would say, you were the ambassador.
Yeah, the ambassador, yeah.
So it makes me think of two things.
Yeah.
I'm about to already forget one, but so I want to the listening audience right now, tell them about the Actors Theater gig that we were a part of the audition that you got the part.
Yeah, that's
tell them
the
about
one,
that gig.
Oh, about that. Yeah, that's
the play itself.
The play itself
Tell 'em
is
about
Girlfriend. It's based off of a record by Matthew Sweet. This record dropped about a week before Smells Like Teen Spirit in the 90s, which wiped it off the map. Nobody paid attention to it. But it kind of was underground. It's kind of a cult classic. If you haven't seen the video for Girlfriend, Matthew Sweet, go check it out. Todd Allman, the playwright, had taken a story about LGBTQAI plus story about these two guys in high school who develop feelings for each other, but they don't understand what they're feeling. And then they're making mixtapes to each other And so when they hit the boombox, then a live female band behind them played the songs. And they never acknowledged the band. The band is like a silent third character on stage. So that gig was magical. That record is magical. I played every song on there.
Yeah, I love listening to those tunes that we had to learn to play.
Yeah,
they were so good.
Yeah.
Just, I like all kinds of music, and I do appreciate a really great pop song.
Oh, yeah. And his was very Beatles-esque, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And he nailed it.
Mm-hmm. He sure did. That was one of the coolest gigs ever. And then Julie Wolfe got hired again as the musical director for Girlfriend when it hit L.A., and then she hired me and flew me out to L.A., and I did the show again out there. Yeah. And since it's been picked up, and now they had it here twice last year. Local companies doing it. I know Chicago picked it up. Cincinnati has it. So you're going to see that show hopefully for a long time, around. It's a great play. It really is.
It's a great story.
And that's how we met. Yeah.
So glad you got to participate
in
that.
Me too, man. I'm telling you. So, Jimmy, what are you doing right now? You always have multiple projects going on.
So I owned a music store.
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
I owned
Guitar
a music store. I did that and I didn't set out to do it. It just happened.
Yeah.
I got talked into it, actually. In fact, John Hawkins, there are a lot of people know him as Screaming John.
Yeah, I love Screaming John.
Well, it was when John was just a little bitty boy. Yeah. I knew John's dad, or as John would say, his pop. He always called him Pop.
Yeah.
Anyway, Bill, John's pop, talked me into doing this with him, and the next thing you know, 12 months later,
you've got guitar pouring.
Bill's off, and I'm running this crazy thing.
Yeah.
Until I find something, until I get a real job.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Because all musicians need a real job.
And so
or at least that's what we're told.
Geez, so I didn't set out to do it, but it happened. But as far as, finally, so I sold it. I didn't try to start a business.
Yeah.
I didn't try to sell a business.
It just happened.
We just needed to announce that we were going to close it down because I was ready to be done. And the sooner we did that, the easier it would be for the staff to find other jobs and so forth.
Course, yeah.
It's time to do this. And people came out of the woodwork wanting to buy a guitar store.
Yeah.
That was...
Probably because it was so historic on Bardstown Road. I mean... As long as I've been here, it's been around, you know what I mean? So I kind of think it's synonymous with the Highlands.
I had a vision for it, and I think that it worked for a long time. I wanted to move away from it because it was, we had to evolve and, sell new guitars and stuff. And they make great guitars nowadays, but it wasn't really what I was into. And I like old guitar.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm more of a vintage chick myself. I like vintage drums, and you won't find me playing anything above like the 70s,
I understand. So, anyway, but the past 5 years now, well, we've got 2 granddaughters.
Yeah.
Maggie and Shelby.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah.
So we're pretty involved with their world.
Yeah.
They just turned 7 and 4.
Cool.
They're so fantastic. So, that's a big part of our life today. And I became a musician for hire. Once again. I didn't try to do this or set out to do it. But I think this word may be filtered out that, Jimmy Brown is no longer running a business, so he's available, I bet.
Yeah.
And so I've been learning, I spend a lot of time learning song lists.
Yeah, I hear you. So side playing, basically. That's what I consider
myself. I'm a side man,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the first call for probably 3 bands that people would think he's in that band.
Yeah.
And I do feel that way. But last year I added it up from this past August through this past July, 12-month period.
Yeah.
I looked at my calendar. I played gigs in 22 different groups.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's what I say.
That's a lot for 1 year?
1 year.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I mean, I was somewhat stunned that I pulled that off, for one, and didn't get really fired from any of them.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's good not to get fired.
I don't think I got fired,
Oh,
I don't know. Maybe, some of those they may have chosen and then not call me back.
yeah.
I don't know.
I've had a couple of those in my day. They didn't call me. It's okay.
But it was, it was challenging, and I love it, and I got to meet some really fascinating people along the way. One, of course, our mutual great pal, Ray Rizzo, of course.
Oh, he was in here yesterday.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, Ray Rizzo sat right where you were yesterday talking to me. Yeah.
Ray, I love you, brother.
Me too. I love that dude.
Oh, I do so
really
much.
do.
I told his wife a year or two ago, he won't mind me saying this, I'm sure. I said to her, I said, anytime I get the opportunity to play with your husband, I want to do it.
Yeah.
But not for a reason she might think.
Yeah.
Said, I want to do it because Ray has an aura about him.
He does.
That I want to be around that type of aura.
Yeah, he's got that groovy vibe going on, man. That's just magical.
Right. I mean, every now and then I've run into somebody.
What about me?
How you doing, man? Welcome on LRS. Are y'all buds? Yeah, I love that. Jimmy Brown knows everybody. Ray also knew him. He knows everybody, I swear.
You just, but you run into certain people. It's like, oh, man, and so, Ray's hooked me up with a few different situations in the last couple of years.
He's a busy dude. He also, I don't even think we got through half of the list of the stuff, people he's played with, he just plays with everybody. And ironically enough, I was telling him that I had just interviewed this chick from New York City, Shannon Conley, who was the lead singer of Led Zeppelin, the all-female cover band of Led Zeppelin. And he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm in a band with her in New York, in Brooklyn." I went, "Are you kidding me?" Small world, right?
And I'm not surprised.
He literally knows everybody. It's crazy.
No, Ray is, he's got good energy.
Yeah.
He's a very talented musician.
Very.
And he put these things together. The challenge with that, which is going to happen for Ray, it happens to a lot of people, is you can't be more than one place at any given time.
Right.
So you're going to have to say no to certain things.
Correct, yeah.
It's inevitable,
Man, one time in one day, and this is the most gigs I've had in one day, I think. I took 5 gigs in one day. So, and I added it up. I think I was playing 14 hours total out of a 24-hour day time period. Yeah. Well, and it was with different projects, too. It was 3 or 4 different projects that day. But I got to open for Taylor Dane, and then I got to open for the Gin Blossoms, and then I played Pride twice. And then, it was but I had to hire somebody to tech for me, and I had 2 different drum sets, and they would set up the first drum set, and then while I was playing the show, they would go to the second venue and set up the second drum set, and then when I went to play the second venue, they would go back to the first and get the first and take it to the third, so I hired somebody to do that just so I could actually achieve it, but I was pushing my body to probably physical places I probably should not have been back then.
Well, because you're going to a large part of that, you're gonna live off not your adrenaline.
Yeah, adrenaline. Yeah.
But
by the time that last gig hit, I was done.
Yeah. And if mentally you start thinking about that, then you can drop real quick.
Right.
I've never played 5 in one day. I think I did 4.
Yeah.
And I think maybe 3 of them were 1-hour gigs.
Yeah. A couple of these were 1-hour sets. Yeah.
But man,
the last one though was a 3-hour set. That was the final, and it was up until 1 o'clock in the morning or something. So, yeah, it was a wild day.
If I had my druthers, I would never do 4-hour gigs anymore.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I like those little 45-minute sets. Yeah.
I still do a fair amount of 9 to 1, 8 to 12, 7 to 11 kind of jobs, and I'm getting a little older. I try to keep myself physically pretty fit, but it wears.
It's physically exhausting. I try to explain that to people who don't understand playing drums, because it's not too physically. Not saying it's not physically exhausting for other instruments. It's always, but drums are the most physical out of everything. Not only playing them, but just carrying the equipment, setting up the equipment, tearing down the equipment, loading the equipment. I mean, my drum box alone is like 300 pounds, So once you've done that, when I was out on tour with Kelly Ritchie, we did 170 shows in 9 months, If you add that up, it's a lot.
That's almost like every day, almost.
Pretty much. And there were some weeks we were doing like 9 shows in 1 week. So we sometimes on Sunday we'd have like a double. You know what I mean? So we were like really beaten. It just beat me down. But at the same time, it also got my chops super strong,
right?
Because I was doing it every day. And some days it would be the 3-hour gig. Some days it'd be the 45-minute set, just depending on what it was.
And I think with that, someone's ability to keep mentally fit is big.
Yeah, I agree.
It's so easy to get worn down and then just say, I quit.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, man. I tell you what, I've hit that a couple times in my life. Last year was a big one for me. Yeah. I feel like if I can get through last year, which I feel like I almost had a mental breakdown in my 40s, going into my 40s, I feel like I can get through anything. Because I lost so many musicians that were close to me. I lost a band that was really important to me. I lost, so many things in my life I was shedding, I feel like. And for a reason, I feel like a higher power, was guiding me along the way. But it was just so down. It was never good news, it felt like. And now, thanks to Facebook and social media, I can go back and look at, what you were doing a year ago. And wow, I was smiling through all this, I kept a smile on my face, but it was not, genuine, I guess, because I was being beat down last year.
It's taxing, and I know Mary Jane will say to me, been involved in the Louisville scene all my life for a long time, and, I've gone to a lot of funerals and all that stuff, and my wife would just say, look, you know a lot of people.
Yeah.
And the line of work that you've been involved in, there's going to be a lot of casualties.
Right.
It's just no getting around it.
Right.
And I get that. I think about my pals a lot when I'm on a bandstand, and they're not with me physically, but
Yeah, but you know that they're still there.
I still think about it a lot. Playing with different people I love so much, and they've gone on. Oh my Lord.
Yeah, so the Beverly McClellan was a big hit, We were working on the musical project, when that happened. And so we kind of kept writing, but, just she thought she had about a year, and then it was like a couple months, and boom, she was gone, So that just kind of sent me over the edge after all that stuff. But, man, it's tough to lose, like a spiritual soulmate musically,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, you can't. They're not replaceable. You carry on. You find other people to play with, and they bring what energy they bring, and I try to, be thankful.
Yeah, be thankful that you got to that experience of playing. And of course, while we're mentioning the name, Sue Riley, who was my bass player for 12 years too. That was a tough loss, And I did not get to play with her the last moments of her life, but I had played with her for like 12 years, off and on in different projects. So tough loss, man. We were even roommates last year.
Oh my. Yeah. No, I can appreciate that. And you just got to keep going.
Yeah. And that's what I kept doing, and I was like, man, if I didn't quit last year, I don't think I'm gonna quit. You know what I mean? Because there was a couple moments where I was like, you know what, just screw this music thing. I'm not gonna do it anymore. I'm just exhausted, and it's tough. But I'm still here playing music.
But right, I mean, you can have those thoughts.
Yeah.
It's okay to have thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
It's our actions that really count.
Correct.
And so you're probably not going to quit playing the drums.
No. In fact, you know what? I wouldn't be playing a gig with you coming up here. So, and it's going to be the first time for us. So it's going to be a whole nother magical experience. So I'm very thankful to get to play with you, after losing a bass player. Because, I talk about this often. The rhythm section, man, once a drummer like me finds a bass player that I love to gel with and vice versa, you just don't want to let that go. You know what I mean? You want to continue to play with them because you just have that magical spark together.
I played. It's been more than a year ago now, maybe a couple of years now. But a fellow who I always respected around town, who I had maybe jammed once or twice with, maybe played a song with, but never really worked with. And I got on a bandstand and played with this fella, and I said to him, "Where have you been all my life?" Because he was so easy to play with.
Yeah.
As a drummer, it was like, oh my God, I know exactly what you're about to play, and then I know what I'm going to play.
Yeah, and it just makes it easy. Yeah.
And no two drummers are alike.
No, I agree with that. Yeah. No.
Man, I've
you know what blows my mind too is that a lot of people don't understand. I mean, great musicians understand, but a lot of people don't really understand what it takes to have a great drummer. You know what I mean? And I love the Buddy Rich saying about an average band with a great drummer will be great, but a great band with an average drummer will be average. Yeah, and it's the truth, because the drums and the bass, it's just the foundation. It doesn't matter if your foundation is correct. It doesn't matter what you build on it. No, if you've got a solid foundation, you're going to build solid stuff on top of it.
As I read somewhere, you can't, what is it? Mortar without sand or something like that is not going to have a foundation that's going to last, And,
right.
And so, from the bass part, I listen to those drums.
Yeah.
I try to listen to whatever the rhythm instrument might be, and I'm going to glue these things together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I
you're the glue, man.
I try to, that's what my old pal Ricky Mason, I don't know if you ever knew Ricky Mason or not.
No, I didn't.
Oh, man, he was a Louisvillian. I got a couple of pictures of Ricky with me.
Oh, cool, yeah.
Here's one with us with Albert King.
Oh, Albert King.
Ricky is on the far side, I believe. But
oh, wow.
Ricky was such a... Ricky's the fellow with the sleeveless shirt on there.
Yeah, I see that, Ricky Mason.
Oh man, well, Ricky, if the actor Steve McQueen would have played guitar, he would have been Ricky Mason.
Yeah, I could see that.
Really good looking and slightly dangerous.
Man, I was gonna say Lamont Gillespie's up in here.
Yeah.
How did you get to meet Albert King?
We had a blues group back in the early days of the Water Tower blues barbecue and blues thing, and we opened for Albert King. And so, and Albert King stood on the side of the stage while we performed, and had his pipe, wearing shorts and these knee-high nylon socks. I remember all that.
That's wild.
But he stood over there just kind of, nodding his head in approval of what we were, trying to do. And
man, I would think that was, if Albert King's nodding his head at your stuff,
it can be really intimidating.
Yeah, I would think so.
But he was into it, and so when you get that, then you can kind of feel like, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
We can just do our
way,
thing.
At the top it says Albert King and friends.
I know.
So you're his friend.
I'm his friend.
I love that.
Oh God.
Oh, it's great, man. Jimmy, you probably met like some of the most famous people in the music industry. You sold guitars.
Man.
I would think to almost, I remember when I was young, everybody would tell me guitar, and this is back when you owned it. The Guitar Emporium. There was always famous people kind of coming in and out of there.
Well, and it's true, although for the most part.
Yeah.
For the most part, I went to them more than they came to me. It's just easier in a lot of ways. Occasionally, we opened up after hours for people. But yeah, Meta, I wouldn't even know where to begin. But
I'm sure.
This goes back to actually high school. And once again, most things in my life have happened almost by accident.
Yeah.
And
same. Kind of in a weird way. I call it a higher power.
Yeah. Or God doing for me what I could not do for myself.
Yep.
And I got, so I was messing with guitars as a kid in high school, and somebody from Neil Young's band had gone into doo-wop shop. This is before Victor Himbaugh doo-wop shop. Roy Gentry owned the doo-wop shop, and Victor was his sidekick somewhat. But anyway, a buddy of mine that worked there is like, no, we don't have that kind of guitar, but I think my buddy Jimmy Brown does. Here's his phone number. I was still living at home with my parents. I was in high school.
Yeah.
And so somebody from Neil Young's band, whoever that guitar player would have been, called me.
Cool.
Here, you got this guitar.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't have that guitar anymore. I sold that guitar. But it made me think. I like messing with guitars and buying them out of the paper or whatever and fixing them up or something, reselling them. I enjoyed doing that kind of stuff. And I had a thought, I'm going to go down to the local concert hall, which back then was Convention Center.
Okay, yeah.
Which became Louisville Gardens, but before that it was called Convention Center. Before that it was called the Louisville Armory, where my big brother saw Elvis play in '57.
Wow, how cool is that?
But anyway, I knock on the back door, and I've got some guitars for sale. It could have, I don't remember, Jethro Tull or The Who or Uriah Heep or any number.
Any of those great bands.
But next thing you know, they were like, oh, yeah, we're interested. Come back and we'll have you a pass. And so I got hooked up with, and got to kind of know
network, right?
The network, and as a high schooler.
Wow.
And going back to my mother as a champion, my mother would let me cut school, because this stuff usually happened around noon.
Yeah.
My mother would not only let me cut school, she would drive me down to Convention Center.
Wow. You did have a cool mom.
And the basic thing was, just don't tell your dad.
I love that. Yeah.
And something tells me that my dad, who was rough and gruff, he probably knew all along what was going on. You know, I mean,
parents always know. I mean, they really do.
So I got involved in that, and I don't know what we can say on and off the radio.
It's just everything, and it doesn't matter. Here,
I'm lucky to be alive.
I understand.
I just, no, I mean, but because I had a purpose. I was there for a purpose.
Right.
It makes you a little more you're more accepted.
Yeah,
you're part of this bigger thing at that time. And so people, it's okay, and they party with you, and you part of what they are, and whatever that is.
Yeah, that circle, And plus, you lived through a very magical time period in music, I would think. I mean,
it was nearly every week there was a concert in town, and selling guitars to all these people, and skipping school, and I mean, one of my favorite memories is sitting on the hotel bed with David Gilmour from Pink Floyd,
Wow. Who, I'm not straight, but if I was, it would probably have been for the 70s, David Gilmour. He was just such a cutie back then.
He was such a nice guy.
And one of my favorite guitar players of all time.
No, he was so nice, and the background girls were there, and Roger Waters were, the weird thing was people from England, they didn't just smoke pot, they put it in cigarettes.
Oh, they call that a spliff.
And I hated it.
Yeah. They mix the tobacco with the marijuana.
It was like, oh, God.
Yeah.
But
wonder why they do that. I've never understood that.
Me neither. But I'm here to tell you they did it because I was there.
Right on.
And it was just so. But I got to meet all those people.
How was David Gilmour, man? I would think that would be a magical experience.
He was the nicest guy.
Yeah.
He was the nicest guy.
Man, he is so cool. I just read that he sold some of his guitar collection to donate the money to the Amazon.
No, I mean, the guy is just so good. And this was I first met them when they were touring for their Dark Side of the Moon album. So these people were exploding in fame and wealth at the time.
You think if I had $1 for every time I listened to that record, I'd be rich.
But they were just down to earth, and I think the first time I fly on an airplane, I'm 18 years old. I'm still in high school, and it was Uriah Heep and Eric Clapton, I believe it was, playing in Miami, Florida.
Yeah,
they buy me a plane ticket.
Wow,
to go to Florida to sell some guitars.
I was going to say to bring them a guitar.
Deliver guitars.
Yeah.
And so I think I stayed for 3 days on the beach at Miami. This is like when me and my wife went to see the movie Almost Famous.
Yeah. Great flick.
It was like, wow, I relate to what's going on in this movie.
Yeah.
And so much so that when I was a senior, I was invisible in high school, except I had a reputation, long hair, and took drugs. And,
right. Musician reputation.
Right. But I was, I graduated, I think out of the 480 people or whatever it was, I was number 11 academically. And I stayed out of trouble pretty much, so there wasn't a lot they could say.
Yeah.
But they called me into the principal's office with the counselor, I guess, and they said, if you don't come to school more, we were not going to let you graduate.
I love that. You're like, man, I'm out selling guitars to Pink Floyd, man.
I'm busy. I'm busy.
Right. I'm flying to Miami with Eric Clapton, you know? But what a great life, man, you've led.
And so that, and that was all fantastic.
Yeah.
And it, how it led into owning a music store, like I said, I didn't plan on doing this.
Yeah.
But, it did happen. And it carried on. A really good story. I got a million stories.
Oh, I know.
Jim.
I love it. I love it. Can I ask you a real quick question, though?
Oh, yeah,
I wanted to ask you about LRS. How far do you go back with LRS?
Oh, well, in fact, somebody brought this up to me the other night. There was LRS, and even I think prior to LRS, there was, out of Fort Knox, WSAC.
Okay, yeah.
And that guy's voice, his dad on the radio station, Kevin Cowan. He had such a radio voice.
It's like a Wolfman Jack kind of.
Now for some heavy tunes tonight.
Yeah.
But and then LRS came on.
Yeah.
Which the
we started in
the Henson family.
Yeah.
The Hensons owned LRS.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I got to know the Henson family a little bit later on in life. But I remember when it first started up.
1964.
Oh, I don't remember that. You're kidding.
No, we started in 1964, the same year the Beatles came to America. Now, the rock and roll format didn't happen until a little bit later. But when we started, we were not rock and roll. Okay. But then it started, later on. So
right, because AM radio was transitioning from pop hits to heavier format late in the night. I can remember that started up at some point.
The deep cuts of all the vinyl stuff,
And then, SAC out of Fort Knox, and then LRS was the really first big, radio station locally for, expanding music in a big way, I guess. And,
well, we're back, and that's what we're trying to do now is, since we're more mom and pops now and not as corporate, we can play rock and roll from the 60s till current, which is a wide range of things. It includes everything from new wave to punk to metal to, to classic stuff to everything that you can imagine. Everybody's been influenced by rock and roll at some point, since it's been around. So it's fascinating. And now we're back interviewing people like you about your music career, being able to play songs that you bring in, being able to break the local artist like you used to. And not having to play a Taylor Swift 14 times a day,
And that reminds me, so Wacky Radio on WKLO in the day, and I'm a little too young for this, but in the 60s, you could go to the local recording studio, make a record.
Yeah.
You could take it down there, and you had a shot of getting it played.
Yeah.
And more so, actually, creating some buzz about your band back then.
Yeah,
that's how you did it.
Yes.
And so LRS then, they had the homemade albums.
Yeah. I was going to show you one right here. This is one of the more famous ones.
I remember the album cover.
The homemade album, the homemade pie. Yeah. How cool is that?
And I was in a hippie band called Middle Earth, and we had one song on one of those albums. I remember. I can't remember what year or which album it would have been, but it was great that a local radio station could get behind what's happening locally.
Correct, yeah.
And so when WFPK, I get all these confused, when they switched their format, this would have been in the 80s, I believe.
Yeah.
I remember from our business at the Guitar Emporium, we became a sponsor from the get-go.
Yeah.
I think we were one of the first sponsors because to me, I thought, well, they're going to promote local stuff.
Absolutely.
And my livelihood is somewhat dependent upon what happens locally. So I want to support this.
Smart business move.
But, but I really believed in all that because I to this day, I really do believe it doesn't matter where you come from. Right. Good music can happen anywhere.
Exactly, yeah.
And our town is filled with talented people.
Amazing, yeah. I mean, just my show alone, I've brought in so many people that are local, that are amazing musicians, that have had amazing stories like you, and it just blows my mind, every day how much talent we have in Louisville. And every time I try to run away from Louisville, I get sucked right back in. I always say I don't have family in Louisville, but the musicians, the LGBTQ community, like, you know, even the radio cats that I've worked in radio with for a long time, they're all my family, you know. Well, and it's hard to get away from that.
I believe that, you know, for better or worse, from the better side of this, what you're talking about is Louisville is a small enough city to where, you know, the community can come together pretty easily because it's small. You get to know most people, and you get connected pretty easily. If we were in the freeway land of Los Angeles or something, you know, it might be more challenging, I suppose.
Yeah. More people doing more stuff, But Louisville we're really lucky here to have as many, you know, musicians and just diversity musically. This city, you can go, and I talk about this often, you know, if we want to go see a great blues band, we can see a blues band. If you want to see jazz, you can go see jazz. Up in the Highlands, you go to the tap room, you'll see all the metal kids. You know, we have a great foodie scene around here. It is a foodie city. Everybody loves to eat here. You know what I mean?
You got to eat.
Yeah, you got to eat. And I always say they love a brunch in Louisville. They love a Sunday brunch, you know, and they do. Also, speaking of LRS, though, we're also bringing back LRS Fest. And that's going to be coming up at first weekend in first weekend in October down at the Brown and Foreman Amphitheater.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah.
How nice. I like that.
Yeah, we've got School of Rock bands. We've got the Atherton High School band. We've got a bunch of local bands. Non-Point's going to be headlining. We're going to be out there all day, you know, doing the thing.
It's a wonderful venue. I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, help me here, but that's where the Jug Band Jubilee takes place every year.
Yeah.
You know, I did that a few years with the Juggernaut Jug Band, and I'd never been there before. And I was like, oh, my God, look at this natural theater space here, kind of hidden away from everything, but as soon as you're there, it's like, oh my Lord, this is as cool as it can be.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's also where the Troubadours of Divine Bliss host their Mighty Kindness Festival usually.
Okay, all right.
Or their Harvest Hootenannies. You know, they're always doing Earth Day stuff, and they're always doing something to change the world into a better place, aren't they? I love those chicks.
Man, I can remember how many years ago now would this be? I might just, you know, because I had a business right on Bardstown Road in the Highlands, I might just step out my door on the sidewalk and there'd be this accordion going on, you know, just right there. They'd be out there doing their thing.
Yeah, they were kind of like folk street performers in a weird way. You know what somebody told me a couple days ago is they met a chick down in New Orleans who was a street performer, but she was a poetry writing street performer. And I said, what is that? And they said she would sit there with her typewriter, and if you gave her a couple of bucks, she would write a poem and a song for you and type it out on an old school typewriter. And now that is the most bizarre thing I've ever heard. But they said she made bank.
Wow.
Down in New Orleans. Isn't that wild? Can you wrap your head around that?
Not real quick.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of one of those that you're like, huh?
So, I mean, I think of like my buddy Chris Anger, who is a Louisville improviser.
Yeah.
Quick wit.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Exactly.
You know, because you're going to have to, if you're going to make some money at $2 a pop, you're going to have to really spin them out.
Isn't that crazy, though? So she was kind of like a busker, a poetry busker, in a weird way, who made money by typing poems for people. Yeah.
So her musical instrument was a typewriter.
Yeah, basically. And they said the old school one, too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, right, because you're not going to get an electric one.
Yeah, no.
You know, you're going to have...
I just thought that was the most bizarre thing I'd ever heard.
It's either Underwood or Underhill.
Yeah, exactly.
This is one of the brands of those old typewriters.
Yeah. Well, Jimmy, it's awesome to have you up in the studio. We're going to take a short break and spin some tunes for some people.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to kick it off with the Spencer Davis Group with Give Me Some Lovin'.
We're going to get some lovin' right now.
Yeah. You're locked on to LRS102.com, The Walrus. Stay tuned. Oh, you got to wait for the gong. Oh, there it was. How are you doing, man? Jimmy Brown, that was a track he brought in. You said that's Jimmy Gardner on
that's
vocals,
our
man.
Our band Hillfish was Jimmy Gardner, Jeff McAllister, Jim Schweiker, Joel Pinkerton, and myself.
It's like an all-star band, man. It's crazy. Yeah, you were right. His interpretation, Jimmy Gardner's, of Nancy Sinatra is pretty amazing.
For those of you that knew Jimmy, then you know where I'm coming from. You'll never forget such a kindred spirit as that guy.
Yeah.
And if you didn't know him, I suggest you dig up any of the music he ever did, because it's
pretty amazing.
It's good.
I've heard stories about him for years. You know, I got here a little bit later. I didn't move to Louisville until '99, so I hit it late and did not jump into the music scene right away. So, you know, I heard stories about Tim Krekel, Jim Rosin, Jimmy Gardner, all these greats that were around here, you know, that I never got to meet. But evidently they were very magical in this community.
Oh, I mean, Jimmy Gardner was crazy talented, crazy funny. It was always a treat to hang with him and play music with him. He was very, very gifted. And so how about the use of profanity on this program?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. You can cuss all you want. We have a little swear jar right here, and we donate it off to charity every month.
There you go.
So anytime you cuss, we donate money to charity.
So you mentioned Jim Rosen, so one quick Jim Rosen story. I did have the pleasure of playing with Jim off and on for a few years.
Yeah.
And so one of my Jim Rosen stories would be, Jim was very accomplished harmonica player.
Yeah.
Extremely accomplished. And a force to be reckoned with. And he kind of looked like, for those of you who can remember, Sebastian Cabot. He kind of resembled Sebastian Cabot. It was a TV actor from way back when. But I remember being on a bandstand with Rosen, and standing next to him, and he not only was he really good, he tended to play rather loud, you might say.
Okay.
He freaking blew your ears off.
For a harmonica player?
It was loud.
Yeah.
But he could really play.
Yeah.
But I remember one night, you know, standing next to Jim, we're playing, we're jamming out. I'm like, hey, man, Jim, can you just turn down a little bit? And Jim Rosen's response to me is, shut up, motherfucker.
Yay! We'll put money in the tip jar. I love that.
I love telling that story. It's just,
yeah.
I mean, if you knew Jim Rosen, you knew.
You knew, yeah. That's cool. Yeah, and you didn't take it personally, I take it.
Oh, of course not. It's just how Jim was, man.
You know, it's so funny. That's a major differences, I feel like, between women players and men players. Because women players would get pissed off and never speak to you again. Guys are just like, they let it roll off and, you know, they move on. And it's cool.
and that one I was able to let it roll. But you also mentioned, I think you never met Steve Ferguson, I believe.
Never met Steve Ferguson, no.
So one Ferguson story, I got to play with Steve, and we put a band together to open for B.B. King.
Oh,
so we kind of threw a band together.
Yeah.
And Steve was a leader of it. He brought, a group of people, and Rosen, Jim was playing harmonica. Yeah. And it was going to be a great gig, and it was a great gig.
Yeah.
And got to meet B.B. King, and it's like, man, this is all good.
It's wild.
But it's just like, if you ever saw the Chuck Berry movie that Keith Richards did, Hail, Hail, Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
There's a clip in that movie that is exactly like what took place in the Steve Ferguson B.B. King gig.
Yeah. What happened?
We're playing a song. And I'm standing next to Steve Ferguson. Jim Rosen is on the other side of the drums, way over there. And so we're playing probably in the key of A. I'm thinking, we're playing along, and Steve Ferguson looks over at me and yells, B flat, B flat. In other words, we're going to modulate half a step.
Right.
And I looked at Steve Ferguson and I went, no! Thinking Jim Rosen, the harmonica player.
Yeah.
He's not getting this information.
Right, exactly.
It's going to sound like...
It's going to clash.
Oh, my God.
Well, and I actually love the half-step side-by-side notes. I didn't know that those were even a thing until I played... it's called the Symphony of around the Legend of Zelda Symphony of the Goddesses, and in a lot of the scenes in Zelda, the games, the music will be half steps, like side by side half steps. Whatever they call that, a minor second or something like that. And they clash, But sometimes they can sound kind of cool too. But yeah, you don't want that on a stage.
In a rock and roll song, and you're a half step away on the harmonica. I mean, it sounds like something's dying.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
And if you knew Jim Rosen, he was, a big burly guy, and quick to say "motherfucker" or something like that. And he's looking over at us, and I'm like, "Sorry, man."
Yeah, dude, what a great story. So, what happened? Did you?
Oh no, we did it. I remember. Here we go, and Jim's looking over at me like.
Yeah.
What the fuck, man?
You've got to you've got to change your whole harmonica.
He's got to find out. He's got to find out the key we're now in, and where's his harmonica.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it's like, but in the movie Hail Hail Rock and Roll, there's a scene where Chuck Berry. Says the same thing, and Keith Richards looks at him, and Keith Richards goes, "No!" They're filming this for a movie. Yeah. It's like,
man, that's great. I love that. Yeah, it always is interesting to me how, like you were just talking about in rock and roll, you don't want that to happen, but in orchestra sometimes they'll do that stuff. Yeah. You just never know because music blows my mind in the way that literally anything is possible. Anything is possible.
Well, it's one of the reasons I believe to this day. A lot of people love to come out to hear Bo Deco play way back when.
Yeah.
Particularly in the early going, we were still trying to figure it out somewhat ourselves.
Yeah.
And, the potential for a complete meltdown on a bandstand was real.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, I came just to see, are they going to make it through the night?
Yeah. Why was that? I'm just curious.
Well,
just player clashes, or
I don't think it was so much player clashes as just maybe angst, nervousness, stage fright. Maybe somebody got too intoxicated.
Oh, I see. Okay, understood.
Any number of factors.
Well, I played several years like that myself, and I'm sure tons of people were going out to see if Jen was going to fall off the stage.
Right,
or,
exactly. And
punch somebody or whatever.
And so for the band members, that can be frustrating.
Yeah, of course it can.
And for the audience members, it can be really entertaining.
Correct. Yeah, so. I've had some of the worst. Well, I've had a few like wowzers in my day. I am thankful that people still play with me. But yeah, I fell off a stage once. Trashed in my early 20s when I was drinking a lot at gigs and stuff, which I've quit doing. But I would go up. I would be like, man, I need to apologize about that. 1,000 people were there in the LGBT community and saw this happen, and then. The people watching it were like, dude, that was the best show I've ever seen. Did you do that on purpose? And I'm like, not at all.
Oh, Jesus.
So it's funny how it can be entertaining to the crowd, not so much to the players.
Right. And we, as musicians, we are going to have respect for our fellow players.
Absolutely.
And so I'm sure in your instance, you probably were picking yourself up going, oh my God, what have I done?
Well, I tell you what, at the time I was just really young and very nervous, and I just drank too much, before the show. I remember my snare drum like moving in a circle, and I had to focus on how to hit that thing right in the center.
It's like, Jen, those 3 snare drums you're seeing, hit the middle one.
Right, exactly. So and then it took me a while until, you were there when I was introduced to Kelly Ritchie. Yeah. I ended up touring with her, and she made me sign a contract that, she was sober at the time, and she would not, stand for any musician to drink while they were playing. This is even after the gigs and stuff. So I signed that contract, and I did exactly, what was said of me. And then I realized, people like Julie Wolfe, completely sober. My Beverly McClellan, completely sober. She smoked some pot, but other than that, she didn't drink, and she didn't believe in drinking and all that stuff. So after that, I got to paying attention and goes, usually the pros don't these days, which has completely changed, I think, from the 60s and 70s, according to Marvin.
I ran into Steve Miller one day. He happened to walk in Guitar Emporium one day, and there wasn't anybody in there, and I realized, wait, I think that's Steve Miller.
Yeah, I don't even think anybody knows what Steve Miller really looks like.
I went down and said, wait, are you Steve Miller? Yeah. So we started talking about that, and I'm old enough and selling guitars to rock stars and playing music and partying and all that, and he how he put it to me, he's like, I live in Idaho, I go on the road every summer and tour. It's what I do. You see, I'm really lucky, thankful. See, those of us that survived the 70s, and I really identified because, it was November of '83 for me.
Yeah.
I had to go, okay.
You had to go, yeah.
I give up.
Put yourself in check, yeah.
I give up, I get that, and right, because I don't know if I would be here today.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. It's a wonder any of us have lived through that if you did drink heavy, I definitely think it is a very dangerous thing, and I don't think you start to realize how dangerous it is until you have a few moments like that, where you're like, wow.
I remember, I think it was 1980. A lot of people don't know this.
Yeah.
And I think LRS was involved in this, as a matter of fact. I'm pretty sure when they were located in the 800 building. The Rolling Stones rented out Freedom Hall for 3 days.
Cool.
People didn't know they were living at the Hyatt downtown.
Wow.
And were rehearsing at Freedom Hall for 3 days.
Wow.
And I was a gopher for Sunshine Promotions at the time. So I was there for 3 days working with the Rolling Stones.
Cool, man.
And so it's cool, but it's work. And it was like they gave me stuff because it said, we're going to be up for like 3 days.
Substances.
Here.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah.
And I mean,
that's wild, man.
Wow.
What do you do when that happens,
Well, at the point in time, when in Rome, you do as the Romans do. And so I was right there with it. I rolled with them as.
Yeah. One of my favorite stories from McAllister, who you obviously play with a lot, and I love this story. He talked about meeting Levon Helm down at Stevie Ray's in the Voodoo Garden.
Yeah.
And he said that he thought he was smoking a cigarette, but he was actually smoking a joint. And he said he handed it to him. And he goes, I don't smoke. He didn't smoke.
Okay.
But he was like, Levon Helm handed it to me. So he went ahead and did it anyway. And then he was like, man, by the second song, he was on another planet. Because he never smoked, And then after but he was like, dude, what do you do when Levon Helm hands you, from the band? What do you do when he hands you a J? You smoke it. I just thought that was funny.
No, and it is. And so, right. So, you just never know when, as Ry Cooder would say, old man trouble is right around the corner. You just never know when something's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
You really don't. And I think one time I'm hanging out with Keith Richards. It's at a concert. He's going to buy some guitars. He's in a great mood. He's a funny guy.
Yeah.
And we kind of sort of became friends, I guess.
Yeah.
But so a buddy of mine is with me that we used to work for me since passed on. But, we were in like a hospitality room. It's just the three of us.
Yeah.
And so Keith Richards, as the host, is going to make us a drink.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
So, so he looks at me. And, of course, this was 89 or 90, and I've already, been sober for quite a while at this point. Keith looks at me and he says, what do you have, mate? And I said, I'll have a ginger ale. And he pours me a ginger ale. Okay. He looks at my friend. He goes, oh, what do you have, mate? And my friend Greg said, oh, Keith, I'll have whatever you're having.
Oh, no. Probably not the thing you want to do.
But I thought, man, what a perfect line.
Yeah, it is a great line, yeah.
I mean, and Keith Richards cracked up.
Yeah.
Because
what was Keith having, do you know?
Who knows? Probably whiskey and water or something, and God knows what else.
I know. I mean, he's a guy who literally gets his blood exchanged just like an oil change on a car. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's wild, man.
Hey, he's special, I guess.
Yeah, I know. I ended up getting to play that gig with Bobby Keys down in Nashville.
Oh,
with some of the Paul Culligan was on that.
Oh, right,
Andy Brown,
right. Did Eric Horton? Eric Horton was part of
on
that, wasn't he?
Rachel Hagen,
right? Oh, yeah.
Charlie Bach.
Oh,
yeah.
Charlie, I love you, Charlie.
I love Charlie too. Yeah, I loved playing with that guy. Yeah,
man, Charlie. But so you got to play with Mr. Keys.
I did get to play with Mr. Keys before he passed. Yes.
Who his birthday was the same as Keith Richards.
I did not know that.
They were born on not just the same day, the same year. I mean, they were born on the same freaking day.
That's crazy. Yeah. And they were best buds, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
because one of my favorite moments ever was in the green room down in Nashville, and Bobby's on the phone with Keith, and I'm standing there going, "Holy crap! He's on the phone with Keith Richards, man. That's cool."
I'm just once removed from Keith Richards at that point.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
No, it's
1
cool as
degree away,
shit,
man.
you know?
Yeah, it totally is.
And
That was a great gig.
And Charlie, so to me, Charlie Bach, I think I've said this to Charlie. If not, I've said it to some of his friends.
Yeah.
Charlie, I always felt like, needed to pack up and move to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And get an agent. And he doesn't have to do anything except be himself.
Yeah.
And he would make it in the movies.
I guarantee you would, yeah. He's just a fascinating dude with a cool look. He's just very aloha and groovy.
Wear your own clothes and just, they don't even have to give you a script. You can just improvise.
Yeah.
I always thought Charlie could do that out there.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I always loved playing with him. We did that little stint with Your News Vehicles there for a minute.
Oh,
the
yeah, I remember.
Group.
I remember them.
Freddie Worthington.
Freddie
was in
Worthington.
that.
I think I got him on a CD
Scott
here.
Mertz. Yeah, did he play in Bo Deco at some point?
Did,
yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. Speaking of Bo Deco, I've got a song here queued up called Suicide Ride. Tell me a little bit about this Bone, Hair, and Hide record.
Well, it started out just some... getting together to record some music. My old pal, Ricky Feather, we've been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
And we were going to go to a studio. I can't remember the name of it. It was on Barrett Avenue. I remember that. We went over there, ARS or something like that, Studios, I think it was called back then. And we were going to record a couple of songs. I didn't know really much, if anything, about what we were going to do. But Ricky and Brian Burkett, I remember on the drums. I believe Wink O'Bannon was there for this. And I don't know if Gary Stillwell, our maraca player, was there. I guess he was. But what I can remember is trying to, get an idea of what the music was going to be at the time.
Right.
In fact, and I just finished sort of an almost punkish record with somebody and at a different studio. But I kind of had that attitude or idea in my mind. Maybe this was sort of going to be like that, but I wasn't for sure. So we recorded a couple of songs. One of them is Suicide Ride, and I think we may have recorded Crazy Wild on that same session. I think so, but
there's some crazy names on this one.
Oh yeah,
Gunslinging Zulu Queen. I mean, that's a great name.
I love
Dead, Broken, Dirty. Sounds like a lot of musicians in there.
Right now. But it's, we talked earlier about complicated, complex versus simple.
Right.
This music here is very simple music, but it just came together. To me, it just came together really well.
Yeah.
Ricky is a master at getting a great sound, and the parts, I just think, fell together really well.
Yeah.
And so I had maybe more experience at the time than anybody else in the band. So I believe they sort of looked at me a little bit as, what do you think? And I remember Brian Burkett, the drummer, we got done. He looks over at me and was like, he was as nervous as he could be. And like, is this right, man? Is this right? We doing this right?
Yeah.
I don't think he'd ever recorded before.
Yeah, that's pretty, I tell you what, it's intimidating if you've never recorded before,
And, and I had to teach Brian, I literally had to teach Brian Burkett how to breathe on a gig. We talk about
like inhale, hold it, exhale. Yeah.
Breathe,
Love
Brian.
that. Yeah, just breathe.
Slow down.
Yeah.
Breathe. You'll be all right. Mm-hmm. You can last for 45 minutes if you concentrate. And because there were some times we'd do a gig and he couldn't even make it that long.
Wow.
He'd get so nervous.
He was the drummer?
He was the original drummer for about, 12 years. And I think he started having back issues, and he was from Memphis, just outside Memphis. Brian moved back to Memphis a number of years ago.
I was going to say, I've noticed with kids, teaching kids drums, that they do weird things with their mouth, and also sometimes you have to explain to them how to breathe. For some reason, people want to hold their breath when they play drums. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know.
No, it's playing music. You have to get in tune with your body, you know, and mind and body both, and I've had my right hand lock up on me.
Yeah. Oh.
So nervous. I was so nervous.
Yeah.
I did just what I was talking about with Brian. I was so nervous. I didn't breathe, and my fingering hand became like a club.
That's
It's crazy.
Good. Yeah,
It's
it is
stupid. Crazy.
What do you do when that happens? I mean, how do you get around playing the gig?
I think I prayed to God that let us get through this song and, let me get a drink of water and just stop for a moment and breathe.
Yeah.
And, it was a Bo Deco gig. I remember we hadn't played in a while, and it was our first time back out. And me and Ricky were both, I think, really nervous that night. But
man, I tell you what, injuries aren't no joke because I have a little nerve damage going into my fingers, and so it's why I haven't been playing a ton because I just don't want to hurt my body any more than it already is. But I took this nasty fall, and it's just messed my fingers up a little bit. It's a little scary sometimes.
No, it really is.
Yeah.
Now at my age, I think about that and talk about it like, well, as long as my body parts hold up, I want to keep doing it.
Yeah.
But, things do start to wear out.
Oh yeah.
So,
Exactly. Well, we're gonna spin this this suicide.
Yeah, I
ride.
think it's maybe not, but best for my recollection, which is limited. Maybe the first Bo Deco song that I recorded anyway.
All right, I love that. Great story. I'm like, there it is. You're locked on to LRS102.com. That's Bo Deco. Suicide Rate. How cool is that, man? Great track. And as you said, Mr. Jimmy Brown, that's probably, the first one that you ever recorded on? Bo Deco was?
I think it's from the very first recording session I was involved in.
Yeah.
Which would have been, pretty much at the early days of this, for sure.
Yeah. That's cool. Man, it's a very short song. I was like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. That's quick.
Kind of reminds me of playing with Chuck Sharp and Brett Holzclaw in our instrumental get-down band. It's like no songs more than 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah, we had Brett Holzclaw also up in here. I love that dude. We got to play a couple gigs together throughout the years, and he's just so cool.
I love Brett.
And I love that he's in a surf rock band right now. He's a surf rock 60s band.
It's taking me back to my youth because they had all these tunes, and they wanted to, they telling me about the tunes they had, and of course a lot of it was the stuff that I grew up with my big brother who had Ventures albums.
Yeah.
So I grew up with a lot of this music as a little kid. Oh man, and
super cool. Yeah, the Ventures. We actually have down here in our vinyl. We can spin vinyl, and every now and then we'll throw some wax on, But in our vinyl collection, we have a Ventures, pretty large collection of their stuff.
Oh
so
man, you know, I ate it up as a kid, and today, that music, if you play music out there, if you've never gone down that path of some of this early 60s instrumental stuff, it's really fun to do, and you can learn a lot from it.
I bet.
All these little parts are all put together in a certain way, and they fit and create the total package.
Man, that's what I love about the 60s stuff is the arrangements back then were so intense. I mean, we have simplified music as simple as it can get. You know what I mean?
I love it, learning these parts and connecting it with the other parts.
Yeah. So it's crazy. And you also play the stand-up bass as well as the electric bass, right?
Yeah, I don't know how I got into that, but a buddy of mine had a music store in Indianapolis and was like, I got this really nice upright bass in here, and I don't know why I was interested.
Yeah.
But I remember I drove up there that day and bought this old 50s or 40s K upright bass and started to mess around with it a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to use it on some Bodeco stuff, and I started playing it in that band. Some, not all the time, but for some cuts, and I got better at it. And then when Hellfish came along a number of years later, I played it almost exclusively in Hellfish.
Yeah.
Which was really good for me.
Very cool.
Man, it's a challenge. It's work.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Well, you don't have frets on those things, right? Yeah.
Don't have frets, so intonation is an issue, and it's so physical.
I would think finding car space might be an issue. Those things are big.
They're big, but, and I found a car a number of years ago that fits in my garage, which is really little, but all my gear, including an upright bass, will fit in it. And so I've been driving the same style car for about 16 years now. And
nice.
And that really does work out. But you got to get your fingers. You got to get your fingers tough.
I bet. Yeah, that's one thing. I tried to play guitar growing up. I took some guitar lessons, and I can play like basic rhythm, first position, stuff like that. But it always kills my fingers. It
is. And the upright bass, and so an upright bass in an electric band. If the electric band is particularly loud, it becomes really challenging because it'll feedback easily. It's like a gigantic acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
So it'll really feedback quick, and a lot of times you just can't hear yourself. And so to compensate for not hearing yourself, the natural thing you do, you pluck harder.
Yeah.
And if you pluck harder, you get blisters.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
And experienced that hard lesson of plucking too hard real quick.
Yeah.
And getting a blister, and you still got 3 hours to go. And
understood, man. The things that musicians put ourselves through, you know what I mean? Man, like I said, that drum box alone is 300 pounds. I have drugged that thing all over almost every state and all through like 4 or 5 provinces in Canada. You know what I mean? And with a 26-inch kick on top of that. I don't know how I did it. I look back and go, how did I do that?
Well, I play some with a drummer who now what he does, he's got it all figured out. He now carries 2 of those things.
Yeah.
And he's got each one that weighs the same amount of pounds.
That's smart. Yeah, that's smart.
Like, I
tell you what, that drum box on wheels has held up though. I will give him that. I bought that thing for like $30 on consignment when it came into Mom's when I was working there.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's the one thing I miss about working at a music store is all the cool things that come in, the gadgets, and they come in. You're like, I want that right now. I want to buy it right now. Don't sell that to anybody else.
I took a few home, not many, but I did take a couple home.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about your guitar collection.
It's not really big, and contrary because I don't have a gigantic guitar collection.
Yeah.
I'm not rich.
What about basses?
I don't have all that stuff.
Yeah.
We really never made a lot of money running a music store. I mean,
I wouldn't think so.
We didn't. Me and my wife, we live, fairly humbly, but we never wanted for anything.
Yeah.
We tried to see to it that we could do.
Well, man, and life experiences alone. I mean, some of the stories you've been telling me.
You got to do well by the staff, and all that stuff, and so never made a lot, but we never wanted for anything. But somebody asked me a while back, "You want to buy my Dan Electro bass, a modern Dan Electro bass?" And I already have one. They were like, "Well, you want another one? I'm not using it. You want another?" For the first time in my life, I just sat down and went around my house, and added up the basses in the house.
Yeah.
You only really need one bass.
Right, of course, yeah.
I had 11 of them.
Of course you did.
And it's like,
11.
I don't need another one. And that counts the upright, but, but 11 total. But I need to get rid of a few because we're not using them. My wife has a couple of really cool guitars that she never plays anymore.
Yeah. Talking about living humbly and all that stuff, I have always thought that more of the meaning of life is downsizing, not upsizing. Like a big house was never anything I wanted. I would rather live in my 73 camper bus that's got a bed in it, and have the life experiences. Having 12 drum sets at one time, I did have that many. Now I'm down to 2. I only keep 2 around because I don't need really more than 2.
No, right. Like keyboard players, I know a lot of keyboard players have more than one set.
Yeah,
and like drummers, I know have more than one kit because they might do multiple gigs in a day.
Correct.
And
yeah,
I have more than one amp. For that reason, I might set one up here and then go to this gig. And
or I like it for having one. Well, I have 2 different kits right now, and the reason I have that, I have a smaller kit, which is like a cocktail kit, like a jazz kit for smaller venues, because I do a lot of acoustic-y things too.
Right, yeah.
In a situation like that, you don't need a big 26-inch kick drum set, So I have a bigger kit and then a smaller kit, but I also like to have a kit for a practice space and then a kit to play out on.
Right.
So that I don't have to keep moving parts.
No, I'm with you. I have a practice bass at home that it's a Hofner Beetle bass, from '67.
Cool,
I love my Hofner Beetle bass, and I still, I try to use what I have, so I don't take it out on gigs. They're kind of weird, but to play. But I got to use it though. I got to keep it, so I make it my bass to learn tunes on with. So I had this bass. I idolized the band, the Fanatics. You ever heard of the Fanatics?
I have heard of them,
They were kind of an institution in Louisville.
Yeah.
I idolized that band when I was in high school, and I wanted to get a Hofner Beetle bass.
Yeah.
I thought I bought my Beetle bass from Bobby Tribble in the Fanatics, but he told me recently, no, I bought it as custom bass amp. But so I had this bass, and after a year or 2 in high school, I realized I didn't like it anymore.
Yeah.
So about 35 years go by, and a lady calls me one day at Guitar Emporium. It's like, would you come out here? My son has passed away. We've got a lot of music gear. Can you come and pick it up and sell some of this stuff for me? She must have had a friend that knew who I was, I guess. Yeah. Because she didn't know me. And I said, okay, yeah, I'll come out here. It was out in Shively. I drove out to Shively, and as soon as I walked in her son's bedroom, I recognized my Hofner Beetle bass case immediately.
That's wild.
And I realized, oh my God, that's right. I had sold it like in '74 to her son.
Wow.
And so it was like...
And then here it is back again.
Well, that one, obviously...
Yeah, did you buy it back?
Yeah, I had to buy it back.
I have an interesting story because we have a mutual friend, Sam Harris, and Nancy Harris. I took some drum lessons off of Sam Harris a while back, and am kind of a family friend because I was great friends with their daughter and spent a lot of like Thanksgivings and Christmases with them and stuff like that. Wow. Anyway, Nancy, after Sam had passed, obviously sold some of his equipment because he had a lot of drum equipment. He had like handmade steel guitar, or not steel guitars, but steel drums and all kinds of like really interesting things. So she sold some of his stuff, and then skipped to like a year or 2 later, she hires me to play in the Louisville Orchestra. A position that Sam usually played in, right? To kind of step in for his replacement kind of thing. And then I get there, and these other guys that I didn't know had brought the drums that we were going to use, and they turned out to be some of the stuff that, Nancy had sold of Sam's. So here I find myself in the orchestra in his position playing his drums, just by chance. It was a very magical kind of thing. I think that was Ballantine. It was a ballet thing that we were doing at the Kentucky Center for the Arts.
God.
Really, really interesting instruments. It's just weird how instruments like that can kind of float back in your life. It's
happened a few times with me, and it's special when a couple of them were truly significant.
Yeah.
And so I had, they came back home with me.
Yeah, of course.
But
Absolutely.
I'm going to get back to something you were talking about,
Yeah.
Jen. That was about living what you might call a Spartan life.
Yeah, downsizing.
Less stuff.
Less is more.
And so...
Actually, your shirt says keep it simple.
Yes, it
which
does.
we love that.
Yes. So, I haven't. My wife, Mary Jane, has been on quite a jag recently about getting rid of stuff in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm a big fan of that.
And I'm very sentimental.
Yeah.
No,
People, and same thing. My father is very attached to things, and I just have tried to distance myself from being attached to physical things that I cannot take when I leave this world.
Right, and so, and so Mary Jane, sometimes she'll put it to me like, well, we're not saddling Evan with all this stuff to have to go through when we're gone.
Right,
and
exactly.
I'm like, I don't want to go there yet.
Yeah.
But we've recently been cleaning out closets, and she got, at least I was like, yes, I will clean out I will clean out my closet. I will get rid of clothes that I never wear.
Yeah.
I'll slowly make my way through other stuff.
I was going to say, though, I also do not have children. So it might be different if I had children that I think that I could pass that stuff on to. I look at it differently because I am no kids.
Well, and that's right. And so in our house, there are things we think about. That there are grandchildren. It's like, I think we want to keep these books around. You just never know, or certain toys. But we have like some... baby things, cribs and stuff that I think that's all done now.
Yeah. Oh, I was like, who's this? Somebody calling us. Hey. It's the station line. They're probably, calling to request a song or something.
Oh, my. But yeah, so, some things, it's time for them to go.
Yeah.
We got to.
Yeah. Well, I'm also a big fan of, I don't know who came up with that mindset, and it may be like a Shaolin monk or something like that, but... I always do believe that if you get rid of something, and I do believe this about physical things as well as people, relationships, I think it goes for everything. If you get rid of certain things, that clears up space in your life for something even better to come back in. But it can't come in unless you clear up the space.
Right.
So if it comes to like a toxic relationship or... a band that's just not progressing in the way that you want them to, or physical things that you actually own. I feel like I like to give my things away, and I learned that from Bev. Bev would give you the shirt off her back, literally. She would just be like, here, I want you to have it. She always was giving people things. So I like to give people things, and now... I'll have a friend over here that's got 2 or 3 things of mine, or this friend's got 2 or 3 things of mine. And, but I feel like when you get rid of that, it clears up the space, and it always is replaced with something just as good later on.
No,
but I do feel like you have to clear that up.
I know, and I've never considered that.
Yeah.
So that's good for me to think about. I know my wife was inspired by a good friend of hers that's really trying to live that way, really clear of a lot of stuff because it's... her mind and spirit is open for more stuff to come in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so I know Mary Jane's taken on that same attitude, and I'm trying to get there. And
I have found though that if I do that and I just trust the universe and trust a higher spirit, that it always provides for me, no matter what. I never ever worry about money, even if I don't have it, because I feel like it's going to come into my life if I need it. You know what I mean? And it always does. It's like just trying to calm your soul and have a little bit more faith in the journey, I guess.
Right, totally. And what you're describing there, which is the one of the critical elements of what you're talking about, is not only that you have that faith you're talking about, but to be able to act out on that.
Yeah.
So in other words, you believe, but you're going to move forward in that belief. You're going to keep carrying on.
Yeah.
Or how did I hear it put years and years ago? Faith without works is dead.
That's true.
So, you just carry on, you believe,
I think when you do believe that a higher power is like guiding your spirit, you just have so much less to worry about, you know.
Oh, man.
I always feel like I'm in the right place at the right time for what's needed at that moment, you know.
Yeah, if I, as it's been put to me, if I put my faith and trust in my finite self, I'm going to set myself up for problems.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
a higher thing, we can go off into that, but
yeah.
For me, I know I believe that it exists. I've experienced, the higher force in this universe.
I agree. Yeah.
I've always been taken care of.
Me too. Absolutely. And I never stressed too much about it. I used to when I was younger. I stressed a lot more. Nowadays, not so much. I'm just like, what's meant to be is going to happen.
And I struggled with that. I got to be honest here. I really did. In owning a business, running a small business, it was really stressful. I mean, it was fun, exciting, rewarding, and great experiences. But at the end of the day, making enough money to keep it going was really, really hard.
Yeah.
And there were times when I was not acting out on my own faith, my own belief that it was all going to be okay. I know. At times, I really... More than just at times, I tried to really take control.
Yeah.
Which.
Yeah. You can't do. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I can try to put myself into the equation and do my part.
Yeah. But again, you did end up making enough. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, my God.
At the end of the day, you had enough.
I always had enough.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nowadays, just trying to, make the right decisions and stuff like that. And
well, Jimmy, I also wanted to tell you, because we're going to have to wrap this up. Where can people...
No, I'm not leaving.
Right? I don't want you to leave. If I had another 2 hours, we'd stay here and talk all night.
Well, listen. To those of you in Radioland, can this be part one?
Yes, of course. I'll have you back on after we play, and then we'll talk about playing together. See, that's how it works. You are welcome on my station and on my show in this studio at LRS anytime.
I love it. I love it, Jen. You rock. Of course,
thanks, man.
You know that. But I'll say it out loud for those that are listening.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's a wonderful thing. Louisville's good.
Yeah, Louisville's good, man. And we got a rhythm section right here. And you can see both of us rock out together at the Highlands Pride, Bardstown Road, Saturday, September 21st. By the way, that's my birthday weekend, too.
Oh, Dynamite.
So I get to play with you on my birthday.
Oh, Dynamite.
And Donna and Jess and LaVon and everybody. Yeah.
I'm excited. We're going to rock.
Yeah.
It's going to be good.
Yes, and we're on from 4 to 5. Todd Rickall is the headliner. If you don't know who he is, go check out Twerking in the Rain. I mean, the guy he takes classic old school like musicals and redoes them for modern time.
I'm going to dig it.
Yeah, but he's been on a ton of shows, and he's a great singer, great performer.
I'm
in fact,
to it.
Just FYI, if you were watching the VMAs the other night, Taylor Swift won an award for her song that is pro-LGBT.
I didn't know that. Okay.
She did, and when she did her acceptance speech, Todrick, our headliner, was right there on her left, and she had him give her acceptance speech.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Meanwhile, on the right side of her was Jay Jolie, one of our drag queens from from Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay. Oh,
yeah, so a lot of Louisville connections going on there with Taylor Swift.
Are we gonna have fun on the 21st?
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a blast, man! I can't wait to play with you. Yeah, and the music we're playing is so cool too. So where else can people catch you other than the Highlands Pride event coming up?
Oh Lord, let's see. My next one, I'm playing Friday night with a group that's never played together. Some of us have. It's called Doghouse Boogie. John Brigard, Mike Alger.
Oh, all the greats, man.
Mark Caputo and Rick. Oh, Rick, forgive me. I can't think of Rick's last name right now. At Amy Z's, 8:30 to 12:30.
Cool. Linden, yeah.
Yeah, going to do Linden. Going to play with the Get Down, Chuck and Brett, Saturday the 31st at the Limbo Tiki Bar.
Look, we got people over here waving at us. Hey, out the window. They're giving it. Kids are like high-fiving us. And
hey, waving. Boys and girls. Hey, boys and
girls.
Go
ahead. The Tiki Bar, man. That's a great place.
That's the Limbo Tiki Bar with the Get Down. We'll be doing all your instrumental faves on Saturday night. And then the following week, man, I can't even think that far ahead.
I know,
Jim.
right? You're so booked up. It's crazy. I love it.
Jeez, I know I'm playing with somebody somewhere.
You probably are. Well, I tell you what, Jimmy Brown, as always, it's been an honor to have you up in
Back
the LRS
at you,
studio.
Jen.
You're welcome back anytime. As soon as we play together, we'll have you back on for part 2, and we'll talk about our gig that we did together. Yeah.
Right. We will. We'll be the Monday morning quarterbacks. We will analyze the gig, and we will just engulf ourselves in all the good stuff.
Yeah. And man, like I said, I wish you well in everything you do, as always. In the adventure and journey of music, I'm glad that our paths have crossed so many times as they have. And I always am excited about rocking out with a badass bass player. I'm just going to say it. We'll put more money in the tip jar.
That's it. Thank you, Jen. I love you. You're my sister.
I love you too, man.
We're gonna rock down.
That's right.
And for you out there in Radio Land, support your local radio stations.
Heck yeah. Yeah, tune into LRS every day, 2 to 4.
LRS 2 to 4.
Well, for my show,
Nation.
Jyneration Nation for my show. And then, of course, we've got all kinds of great shows on, from Skinny J in the morning to Chris McGill in the afternoons. McNubbins is late at night. Hippie Head's here from, 5 to 7 doing his thing. We've got an all-star lineup. Right. All the old school cats are back.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah,
man.
Even the Attitude Network, with Black Frank. We still have that show.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So, anyway, Jimmy Brown, you take care. As always, you're welcome back on LRS.
All right. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you. And as always, I want to tell you, stay groovy, y'all.